big question is, what is your favorite Incubus record? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sound Stories with Byron Nash, and I am your host, Byron Nash. Welcome to episode 8. It is my extreme pleasure and honor to talk about the band Incubus. Holy bleep! I freaking love this band. I discovered them accidentally, actually. They were right around the time I first got into interviewing bands when I was doing, I was a music editor and reporter at Rock and Roll Reporter. So I started in like 1997. That is the year that Science came out. And, my boss would give me a bunch of CDs and say, hey, check out this band and like listen to it. And if you like it, maybe I can set up an interview or something. Man, he gave me this. Fuck, it was over. I was like, who is this band? This Science gave me all the things that I really, really loved because I was already a Primus head. I was already a Faith No More head. I was already a Chili Peppers fan. I was a Mr. Bungle fan. And it just kind of was like a mashup of all those things. And I believe that that was their true identity. But if you liked any of those other bands, it was very easy to be like, Science, because it gave you everything. It gave you metal, it gave you rock, it gave you electronic music, it gave you weirdness, it gave you really strong hooks, but also like kind of a rapping type of frenetic, syncopated type of thing, and just like cool time changes and all that stuff. And I was just a fan, and so Incubus was touring with System of a Down, and they came to a club called Club Laga, rest in peace, and I got to interview Brandon and Mike. And I remember because this shirt is actually from that tour. So this is the OG thing. I'll even turn around and show you the back. I don't normally do that, but it's so freaking cool. I had to show you. So I go to the show. Incubus crushes it, and Serge isn't there from System. He's like stuck in Baltimore. So the band had to play a whole set without him and had the fans come on stage. Totally different story, but it was awesome because I was there for that. But when I was on the tour bus, I got to talk to Brandon, so I had the dreads and everything, and I'm sitting with him, and then Mike comes on, and he's like kind of just warming his hands up and jamming on an acoustic, and I remember immediately thinking, man, that dude can freaking play. Like he's really good. He's not like kind of good. He's like very, very, very good. And we had just really good conversation. Excuse me, about this record, but they were preparing for Make Yourself. So, I could tell that, they're from Calabasas. They kind of Brandon had this energy where you could tell he was very free, very creative. He was hanging out at, Grateful Dead lots and stuff like that. He was like the whole spectrum, but all kind of bundled up in this young energy that was in this awesome music. But I remember I was listening to a lot of like Roni Size and drum and bass and break beats and all this stuff. And it was kind of snuck in that, not even really snuck, it was just in that music. And I remember asking him, like, is more of that going to make its way onto your next record? Because this was before Make Yourself came out. It was like right in between. And he's like, oh, yeah, we've been listening to a lot of that stuff. And it's going to come out. And I remember asking him a question about his singing style because I couldn't get over how good every hook was on Science. I heard Science before I heard Fungus Among Us. And I said, do you have any advice for like up and coming singers? And he was like, yeah, someone told him to sing like you're taking a shit. I was like, oh. I was like, but that makes sense. Diaphragm, strong, push. And then if you watch videos of how he sings, his mouth is really open and like the tongue goes to the top. There's all this technique that is buried in there that is really part of his style, his singing style, which just kept improving. So that was the first like intro to Incubus. Lifelong fan. And then Make Yourself comes out. So that was what, 99? And we were doing this really cool issue at the magazine where we were just featuring all the bands that were hitting at that time. And there was a tour, I think it was like them and System, and it wasn't Primus, but it was like some one of the Les Claypool kind of side project bands. Mr. Bungle, I think, was on it too. So I got to interview Brandon for that, and it was right before Make Yourself came out. And one of the things he told me in the interview was that it was via phone that the label was really mad because he had just cut his hair. Because he had the long, straggly dreads. They did all the promo photos, and then right before he decides to cut his hair. And that show was crazy. To see all those groups in a club like that, so freaking awesome. And he was really cool, and Mike was cool. I took my son to the show. I took my band at the time. I had a band called Sporadic, and we were like super into that record. Like that was the record we listened to on the drive to the gig, and we're all like singing and kind of unified brotherhood. And so that record was really strong for us. And I think for the age that I was and what was happening with rock music, something about like the content of it, make yourself, be who you are, create the life you want to live, don't go by anybody else's rules, really like struck a chord with me at that time. So that album's super impactful. I'm on the fence about which one's my favorite. I'm really curious about what you guys think. A lot of diehard fans are all about S.C.I.E.N.C.E, and they don't really play a lot of S.C.I.E.N.C.E if they play any S.C.I.E.N.C.E anymore at all. And that's an interesting point too that I'll get to a little bit later. So after that, Make Yourself comes out, and then they were blowing up. So every show that I was doing that was bigger, they seemed to be on. I was backstage at Ozfest. I got to shoot him at Ozfest. Um, Met DJ Kilmore. I think he's from Pennsylvania or at least Pittsburgh or somewhere outside of it. So there was like a little connection there. Um, Rolling Rock Town Fair. So it was like them, Chili Peppers, Stone Temple Pilots, Deftones, Fuel, or not Fuel. I'm drawing a blank, but I'll add a photo into the B-roll. Filter. It was Filter. And like Moby. Craziest lineup, right? So I got to shoot them there. So I just kept seeing Incubus. Like there was a period where I just saw Incubus like twice a year or something. And they just became one of my favorite bands. I really like the writing. I really like the guitar playing. I like the music. I like the whole mix. And then Morning View came out, and they were just like that was their that was their The Wall record. That was their big one where it's like, oh man, everybody's gonna like my band now. And but I was happy for them because they were such a talented group. And then after that, a crow what was that? Crow Left of the Murder. I freaking love that record. And this is where there's a weird divide. It reminds me kind of like how things blew up online about Metallica. You're either here or there. Very few people are in the middle. And a lot of people like were upset about that because they were like, "Oh, they got softer." And I was like, they started writing even better songs. And I think people are forgetting that when these guys came out, they were in like high school. So Fungus Among Us, they were teenagers. They were super young on science. They just were really advanced. And I think as an artist and as just a person in general, but a creator, you have like stages and eras. And if your fans come into your music at a certain stage and it's like really marks a time in their life, for a lot of people, that's like the shit. That's their thing. That's the thing they hold on to. It's like early Metallica records, like, oh, they changed. But I always say, because I'm an artist and I'm a guitar player and I'm a creator as well, that you don't really want to do the thing that you did. And so I don't think that they necessarily abandoned that stuff. They just started writing deeper, more mature songs to make sense, to connect to where they were in their lives, right? Now, think about it. You're young, you're a teenager, you're out here playing this cool music, do another record, gets a little bigger, do another record, gets really big. Now you're living a little differently. And I'm not even just talking about like money and fame and stuff, but your life is different. And if you listen to the themes on S.C.I.E.N.C.E and Make Yourself, it's kind of like this self discovery, really kind of young 20s trying to figure your shit out. And that's not going to sit the same when once you're older. It's just not going to be the same. You're not experiencing like the same way. So it kind of sucks for artists and like actors and all that when people want you to stay where you were for when they got into you. And I just don't put that pressure on artists. If a record doesn't sit with me and it's like not my favorite, I still love the artist. I'd never like abandon them. So love Fungus Among Us, love Science. I like super love Science. I love Morning View. I love Make Yourself for sure. That might be my favorite, but like again, they give me different things. If I want to just sing all day, then I listen to Make Yourself. And then Morning View was just like more introspective, and then Crow After the Murder was even deeper and like gave these other things. And then even like the records after that, they're still good records. They're still really, really good songs, and the band is still really freaking incredible. So shame on you fans who abandon bands when they change a little bit. Like you gotta grow. Like, that's what art is. You're always experimenting. They didn't know that that stuff was going to hit the way it did before it hit, and they had to grow from where they were. You just didn't know about them until then, and then you just happen to be attached to that thing. So I always feel like people need to cut these bands some breaks. But a couple of things that if you don't have this in your world, you need this Incubus. This is like the making of this is the sessions, the morning view sessions. Then I have this one, this Look Alive DVD. It's really awesome. And then I couldn't figure out where I had it, but do you remember back in the day they were doing those like films in the round, and like Incubus is in the middle. It's like just kind of like early 2000s 90 thing, and that is such a good performance. I have that DVD somewhere here because I watched it about a month and a half ago. And then I also have Live at Red Rocks, which is really freaking good. Um, I think there's also a weird thing about like Dirk versus Ben. There's no really versus. It's just here's the music that he was on, here's the music that he was on. I think they're both awesome in their different ways. And I knew about Ben through the Roots because I shot the Roots at Bonnaroo, and I followed him from that and all the other projects that he was involved in. And these guys are just creators, man. They're just artists. I mean, what does Brandon do? He paints and draws and does mostly like art gallery related stuff. And then it's like, oh yeah, I happen to be the lead singer of Incubus too. I can make some dope ass music. But imagine doing music that you really love and then it provides you the opportunity and freedom to do the other creative things. I think they're just creative people trying to do their thing. So, um, but I was thinking, I want to ask you guys, what's your favorite Incubus record and why? Leave it in the comment, leave it in the chat below. Uh, no judgment on it. Like whatever you like is what you like. I wanted to also share that this was the Morning View tour book, and I got this because it was the first time I saw them in an arena, and it was their show. But you didn't really see these anymore. I have like a Metallica one, and I have one from Ozzy back in the day, and I just thought, how cool to have like something like that, for your fans. And I kept it in good shape, and this is just a very rock and roll thing to me. So I'm a fan of this stuff. So I am pro Incubus all freaking day, guys. And I think I think their influence on rock music, especially around that time, was really important to give some credit to because if you think about Pardon Me, that's drum and bass. That's all drum and bass. All that stuff was happening in the late 90s, mid 90s to late 90s, really hard, and they incorporated it into their music. Most of those rock fans, I'm pretty sure they weren't listening to drum and bass, but because of Incubus, it was snuck in. And if you even think of what's that one song? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank because I'm hearing all the songs in my head, but there's a few that have really cool time changes, and very much so like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and a lot of those cool bands, even Smashing Pumpkins, I think had some of that in there. They were sneaking these really musical concepts into a format that was very radio friendly, very digestible, and but still true to the artistry. And I thought that was freaking awesome. So I think they just need to continue to make records the way they want to make them. And as a fan, you need to listen to the ones that connect with you. And if that one doesn't connect, still stay a fan and listen to the ones that you like. It's that simple. But yeah, that's my Incubus story, and I want to thank those guys for the inspiration because a lot of my early fundamental, like my first band, I got into that band right around the time, like I started that band right around the time that I got into Incubus. So I was mirroring a lot of the, I wasn't copying their stuff, but I was mirroring like the fusion of a lot of styles, funk, rock, metal, kind of just playing all over the place because I liked all those things. So I wanted to cram as much into a song as I could, very much so like they did on Science. But they were a really big foundational band for my musical direction because I used to have trouble with if I played a metal riff, excuse me, if I played a metal riff, I would play metal riff, but then I didn't know how to blend it into a funk riff, right? And I think certain bands are really good at doing that, like Living Color and stuff like that. So they were another band that kind of helped me be in that direction, and also just like good acoustic singing songs that were deep, emotional, and yeah, they've always been like cool when I met them. So I have like a lot of backstage passes. I'm gonna put a lot of B-roll pictures and stuff like that from the times that I met them and took photos of them live. But Incubus is one of my favorite bands of all time, so thank you guys. But if I had to rate my number one Incubus record, like if I was stranded on an island, and I'm not sure why they like don't like this record as much anymore, it probably is Make Yourself for me. Now, Science, oh, they're fighting, they're battling, but I think for Make Yourself, it gives me a little bit more of a wide range of all the things that they do, um, condensed in that rock format. But I still really do love Crow Left to the Murder. So it is what it is. I think you should love what you love. So I want to hear from you guys, though. What is your favorite Incubus record? Stay tuned. I'm going to play a little bit of Incubus riff after this, and then episode 9 is going to be really awesome. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in to Sound Stories with Byron Nash. This has been a really awesome journey doing this thing because I just love it. So, like, I don't get paid for it. I don't care about that. I just love music and I want to share it with other people that love it too. So, uh, stay tuned for the next episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment. What is your favorite Incubus record? Don't lie. Don't jump on the bandwagon. Be honest. All right, guys, signing off. Peace.